Okay, I'm going to try to do these in about 5-minute segments to keep the files small for uploading. Anyway, this is Packet 11, 1945 1960, Cold War, Truman and Eisenhower. It's page 407. You're looking at 2 pages at once because it's just easier instead of having to move the camera over and over. So, if you're following along, Nuremberg trials, stuff we talked about in Global last year, hold the Nazis accountable for their actions, happened in Japan too. United Nations is there for world peace. Organization we talked about a lot last year. The Fair Deal, if you know what Eleanor Roosevelt, her tie into that, what an amazing first lady in that she worked on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Then Fair Deal, we've had Square Deal, New Deal, Fair Deal. So Truman is continuing like new deal ideas, especially banning racial segregation in the military. On 409, the Cold War, we should remember all those things like Iron Curtain, two superpowers, etc. Containment, trying to contain communism. And there's a picture there of Winston Churchill. On page 410, containment of communism. This is called the Truman Doctrine. Happens in Turkey and Greece first. And there's a map to show how close they are to the Soviet Union, Greece, and Turkey. And therefore, why did we want to contain communism? Page 411, Jackie Robinson breaks the color barrier. And I put up a small video there if you want to watch that real quick. And also all the players can wear 42. Of course, that would be happening here next week, but no baseball. So I think you guys are aware why. Check out that other computer there too, EDVAC. That what I'm filming this on has so much more computing power than that computer there. Took up a whole room. Marshall Plan, we have to make sure that the Europe is available to us as a trading partner, so we give them money. Over on page 412, the blockade of Berlin, so the 2 pages about the Berlin airlift and containment because we don't do any direct fighting. Stalin versus Truman. Over on page 414, here we have on 2 pages, Truman winning election, the famous Dewey defeats Truman. He went to bed thinking he'd lost the election, but actually Truman won a close election. Then you've got the timeline about concern over communism. Now there's afraid that there's communists in the United States. They even pulled Shirley Temple, who was 10 years old, in front of the House Un-American Activities Committee. And a lot of them would be asked, are you or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? And so, of course, that's going to take away your civil liberties. And people that worked in the government, worked in the military, they had to sign a loyalty oath. My uncle in the 50s, he went into, maybe the 60s, he went into the Navy. They investigated everybody. They looked into my Nana, looked into his neighbors, looked into people he'd went to high school with to make sure he wasn't a communist. Now, NATO, again, collective security, we had that last year. Article 5, an attack on one is an attack on all. North Atlantic Treaty Organization, countered by Warsaw Pact. I'm sure that's coming up here. We go over to page 416. China's communist now. The Soviets test a nuclear bomb. So their Soviet Union, communism around the world is a real concern. At home, though, it's a concern. Here's Joseph McCarthy over on 417, where he said, I have a list of people who are communist in the U.S. government. Well, the list wasn't real. Guys like Arthur Miller, who wrote The Crucible, a literal play about witch hunts, was a target in this because he was targeted. People were blacklisted. They lost their jobs, especially people in Hollywood. And I put up a video to talk about that too. The problem with McCarthyism is it's false accusations. It's accusing people without having any evidence. So people would be called before Congress and asked questions, and people took the fifth. But sometimes people lost their jobs for taking the fifth because why didn't you answer the questions? Well, again, this takes away your rights at, your civil liberties. A case was about this, Watkins versus U.S. Watkins actually won this case because he went in, he answered all the questions, and they said, okay, tell us about the communists that you know about. And he said, that's not why I was called here. So he was released. Okay, I'm going to pause here for now. Well, actually, I could finish this day. The Rosenbergs, accused of spying. These people here, the Rosenbergs, and that may have been spying for the Soviet Union. Okay, and then there's also beatniks on there too. It's like pre-hippies. All right, we'll do Korean War in just a second.